Okay, so ordinary to extraordinary, good is the enemy of great. I have a handout. I'm trying to find my copy of it in there. Somewhere I think around the middle. It's got a bunch of comics in it. So, ordinary to extraordinary, the good is the enemy of great. And we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, this first blank is really easy to fill in. So, are you a slave of the ordinary? You like my Minecraft Egyptian slave? Are you a slave of the ordinary? Think outside of the box. So I'm going to kind of reference this handout a little bit, and then I'm going to jump out of it. But so being a slave to the ordinary, sometimes that we can get kind of a certain mindset or a group think, so to speak. We can think that something is just this certain way and it has to be this certain way. So I'm going to tell a story. Hopefully nobody's heard it, but I'm sure somebody has, about Roger Bannister. So this is a guy many, many years ago named Roger Bannister. And so let me see if I have my notes to get my facts right. I should have had this open already, sorry. So Roger Bannister was a runner. And back when, this is like, I think in the 80s or something, back when he was running, everyone was trying to beat the 4-minute mile. So nobody could get, beat the 4-minute mile. It was all 4 and over. It was over 4 minutes. And so Roger Bannister, this was in, even longer than I thought. It was on May 6th, 1954. So he was running, and he breaks the band, and the announcer announces 3, and the crowd goes wild and drowned out the rest of his announcement because he had beat the world record. He had beat the 4-minute mile, and so let's see. You know what's crazy is I don't even have it in here. But he beat the 4-minute mile, 3 minutes and something. I can't remember what it was, but it was really close. So this has been for years, all right, the 4-minute mile, and I'm not a runner, so I don't know a lot about stats and all that kind of thing, but I do know that it's broken all the time nowadays. So he broke the 4-minute mile. It was only 46 days later. Think of years, right? 46 days later, his record was broken. Now, you can go all across the country, and girls in junior high beat that record all the time. Yeah. So, but basically what he did is he took the lid off. He took the lid off of what people accepted as the norm. They accepted this is the ordinary thing, this is how things are, and they just accepted that there's some limits. So, I want to tell, I'll be a little bit transparent here. I came to this conference last year and kind of got connected with Brother Phil Booker a little bit. And we've talked on the phone several times, and then he came to our church at a conference we have where we do children's church. And he had, on his podcast, before you guys restarted your podcast, which I think you're going to have to do again, but on an old podcast, he had talked about, I think it was a podcast, but he had talked about their first kind of big revival in Sunday school, and several people got the Holy Ghost. And so I had asked him about that when he came in August. And here's the transparency part, is we have not had a kid get the Holy Ghost in a Sunday school format yet. But we've had, so we talked a bunch in there about things that you can't track. And so I want to show this, is since February this year, we've had 9 kids get the Holy Ghost in service. Wow. They're all Sunday school kids. 9 kids get the Holy Ghost in service, and I think 5 get baptized. I believe that it is very much a direct result of Sunday school. It just didn't happen in Sunday school, but it's very much a direct result. Now I still have the goal of having it happening in Sunday school. And so I'm going to work on that. I think our format right now doesn't lend well to it, but we are going to work on that. But that's something that I want to continue to push that lid. I don't want to just accept that it's the norm, that we can't do that. Yes?
Can I ask, what is your format?
Our format, we do ages 5 through 11, and we do large group Sunday school. And we do, I call it, when I'm telling somebody like at Home Depot and I'm working on a Sunday school project, I tell them it's interactive children's theater. Because we do big sets. We do big sets. In fact, I'm doing a class on that. We do big sets, and it's interactive, and people like can walk through a forest or whatever, So it's interactive in that, but we do about an hour long, and it's on Sunday, and it's simultaneous with the service. So the kids actually that come on a bus or a van or something, they actually come to the service, and they're part of our worship service, or psalm service, whatever you want to call it, in the beginning, and they get dismissed right before preaching. And then we do have younger classes. We don't have anything older right now. I think we might eventually, but we have a youth group that have on a different day. But we have ages 5 through 11. That's our format right now.
What do you think is a thing that doesn't relate well to that class?
So we do, I think that we try to cram so much into that 60 minutes. We are cramming a lot of things into that 60 minutes, and so I think that's part of it. And even some of that interactivity, if we're focused on it too much. But I will say that lately our altar services have been really great. Our altar services have been really good, and so we have probably obviously if an altar service is taking off, then the script goes out the window. We're not worried about the script. But as far as schedule, we do timers and that kind of thing. So I think we have about 8 minutes scheduled for the altar service itself. And lately we've been having to use all of that up, which is good. Yeah. And we, when I say they haven't done the Holy Ghost, I mean, we've had some incredible prayer services. We've had great prayer services, and they've touched God, and we've had many baptisms come out of Sunday school. At our church, we have an age, we've made exceptions to this, but we have an age of 8. And so I'd say if you're 8 years old, then talk to me or brother so-and-so or whatever, if you want to get baptized. So we've had many of those, and we don't do the baptism in Sunday school, we do them in the church. So we've had that. Okay, where are we at here? So back to the Roger Bannister, don't be a slave to the ordinary. Think outside of the box. That's the first blank there. Think outside of the box. And I guess take the lid off. This is kind of the same thing. But here's the other thing with take the lid off is this is how we've always done it. All right. So I have not found a Sunday school that does Sunday school like we do. Brother Booker's church is the closest one, and they do very similar to what we do, or we do very similar to what they do. And but every Sunday school is different, and that's good, and that's okay. But here's the other thing is, Brother Bob Lee, we're going to do some more object lessons in ours, because since I've been able to connect with you guys. So they're heavy on that. We're heavy on skits, and theme skits and Bible stories. And so don't just say this is how we've always done it, and we're just going to do it this way. If you see something working well for others, man, steal it. Collaborate, get with people and work with them, and don't just accept that, just because we've always done it this way. All right, and then set the standard. Don't worry, I'm not done yet, or maybe don't get excited, I'm not done yet. Set the standard. So me, a leader, yes. Me, a leader, yes. And I don't know, how many of you in here are the lead of your Sunday school or youth or department or whatever? How many are the lead? All right, good. And then I'm assuming the rest are support staff will play some kind of position or role. Now, even if you're not the lead, you can take a leadership role. You can be a leader in your field of work, so to speak. At my job, I have a boss. I have several bosses, but I am also a leader, and so that can happen in your role. It's the main idea is if you're thinking that way, if you're thinking that it's on me, then it makes you act different.
Right.
It makes you act different if it's, sorry, I don't know very many people here, but if you're not thinking, well, it's on Brother Phil, he'll handle it. If you're thinking, no, this is me, it's on me, it's my responsibility, I've got to handle this. It makes you think about how you do your role a lot differently. Where if I drop the ball, it's a big deal. So setting the standard. I want to talk about this. Anybody ever heard of the philosophy of incremental gains? Somebody raise their hand? All right, good. That's awesome. All right, Philippians 3:14 says, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. So I want to talk about being 1% better. 1% doesn't seem like very much. So I want to tell an example. I can't remember who this was from, but he does some kind of motivational stuff, and he had somebody that wanted to be somebody that goes to the gym. It was James Clear, that's who it was. A good author, you might write that down. James Clear, he talks about habits. So he talked about, he wanted to go to the gym, but he just did not have the motivation to do it. He couldn't make himself do it. So the incremental gain or thing in just 1%. So what he did is he would get up in the morning, put on his gym clothes, he had them beside the bed, fold them the night before, that's the first step. Put on his gym clothes, go to the gym, walk in, walk out, go home. That's it. That's all he did. Did that for like a week. Pretty soon he went in there, he's like, walk here. Got on the treadmill. 15 minutes. Went home. And today I don't know but he works out every day, right? So he goes and he works out every day. But he started with that 1%. So it's marginal gains philosophy. Okay, so Team Sky was a bicycling team. They had won 1 gold medal in the last 100 years. Pretty good record, right? They had never won a Tour de France. So they hired this guy by the name of Dave Brailsford to help them improve. And so thought he'd help them get better. They asked him what his plan was. And he said that he had a philosophy about the aggregation, big word, of marginal gains. He described it as 1% improvements in nearly everything you do. So he started by the tires. He made the tires lighter. He got lighter rubber, maybe a smaller profile, made them lighter. He put the cyclists on a more ergonomic seat. So it's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit better. And then he had them wear biofeedback sensors so that they could see how each rider was performing. And this is probably old technology, but they had their outdoor riders wear indoor racing suits because they were lighter and more aerodynamic. I mean, this is little things like, oh, I won the race because I had this outfit on. No. I won this race because I changed my tires. No, really? That's not really how it works. And so, and then they did some things that seem a little outside of the scope of cycling. They split tested different types of massage gels to see which one led to faster recovery. They taught the riders the proper way to wash their hands to reduce the risk of infection to keep them healthy. They even figured out what kind of pillow led to the best night's sleep and brought the pillows with them on the road to hotels. Crazy stuff, right? Brailsford predicted that if they could make all these 1% improvements, then they could win the Tour de France in about 5 years. Now he was wrong. They won it in 3. They repeated again the 4th year with a different rider, and then won again for the 3rd time in a span of 4 years. Then in the Olympics, they won 70% of the gold medals that were available. So small improvements can make a big change. So don't think this is the way we've always done it. So we have a practice every morning for our Sunday school. except tomorrow morning, we're canceling it. But we're flying back late tonight. But we have practice every Sunday morning. And so when we go into our practice, if we're on top of it, I'll admit we have some off days. But if we're on top of it, we do a method that we call what worked, what didn't work. This method is used in business, it's used in theater. What worked, what didn't work. And so a lot of our stuff, we script everything, we write our own scripts, but a lot of our stuff is ad lib as far as we don't write lines out. But what we do, our version of writing lines out, is we will ad lib something, and we've had it before where somebody will ad lib something, I'm like, oh no, don't say that, don't say that. Because I'm like, kids are going to get the wrong idea, they're not going to understand, or whatever, or it's just off the wall. But then there's other times like, oh yeah, that's really funny, use that line, or oh, that's good, that'll impact the kids. Say that, say that part. And so they might not say it verbatim, but we know what worked and what didn't work. And I'm I guess the master barometer of that because I'm directing it. But it's a collaboration. So we have a staff of, I don't know, 10 people. We have a large staff, but we rotate about 10 people at a time usually. And so they are all, the barometer of that, like, oh, I thought that was really funny. Okay, well, we use that. And so, so what happens though is we'll do that on a macro scale too. What worked, what didn't work, maybe on a year. And so, maybe how we conduct practices, how we format our script, and look at that and say, are there 1% gains that we could make? Are there some adjustments that we can do? So like I was just mentioning to Brother Lee there as object lessons, I want to do more. We do some here and there, but I want to add that as a main element or a segment of our scripting. I want to make these 1% gains. I want to make everything better. So I'll tell you something we did just recently. We've done it in the past. We've kind of done some of it. So in our format, we do segments that are roughly like 2 minutes, like I said, and I like them to happen. I like there to be no dead time at all. I like it to happen right, one after the other. Keep the kids hopping, keep them moving. I don't want them to be bored. He's probably bored right now. I don't want him to be bored. So that's my goal. So one of the things we've done this before is we have a rough idea of how much time, and if somebody's taking too long, I'll be in the back and be like, okay, let's go. Or if I'm like, oh man, we need to stretch this out. They're at altar call right now, and so I'll be like, stretch it out. And it's funny if somebody forgets what that means. They're like, so what we've done, I've tried a few different apps, and we've done timers and stuff. So something we just implemented just a few weeks ago is we have a timer app. And so I have the whole script, and we do 60 minutes, and rarely do we go over that, but sometimes we do, and we'll just add lib some stuff at the end. But we do 60 minutes, and so I have everything from, we call it preliminary greeting, where the kids just get dismissed, and all the way through our exit. And so when they come up on stage, there's a screen up there, and they can look at it, and they know how much time they have left. And when it gets down to the countdown, it starts counting over in red. It turns red and starts counting up. You're over 5 seconds, And so, so that's one of those marginal gains that we've made. And it might not sound like much, might not sound like a big deal, but here's where it leads. And sorry, I kind of geek out some of the stuff, I get excited about it. But here's where it leads, is what I'm looking for is every segment. So if we have our rules people out there, and they're teaching on the rules, that's usually towards the beginning, right? And so they're doing the rules. If the next segment is, let's say it's praise, that they're doing right now. If it's praise, I want them to not even be walking off. I want praise to interrupt them. I want them to be just wrapping up. They still get everything they need to get in there, but praise comes in, and praise is busting in there, shocking everybody, and kicking the rules people off the stage. Get out of here, because we're going into praise mode. And so that's the idea with that 1% gain. That's the idea with having a timer. Like, why is it important? This is why it's important for us. This is why it's important. And so, so looking at every single little element that you can do. So I want to ask really quick. Well, let me say this first. Sorry. I mentioned this in the habits session, but perfect practice makes perfect. And it's a fun saying to say, but how do you do a perfect practice, right? It's really hard. And so where I come from, or where I look at that saying, perfect practice makes perfect, is this. Is if I practice because this is how we've always done it, and we practice this way, this is just how we're going to practice, because we've always done it this way, then there's not really probably going to be improvement. But if I practice and I look at just the practice itself and I say, how can I make this perfect? How can I perfect how we are getting our practice together? Then I can make those 1% gains, and I can do better overall. Okay, how many of you are in a classroom setting, like with a group of kids, and it's like one, maybe two teachers? What kind of classroom setting like that? One, maybe two teachers. Okay. And then how many is in a setting more like mine, whereas maybe multiple, maybe not 10, but maybe multiple teachers and a larger group of kids? Okay. Did you raise your hand on both? Okay. Thought so. Nice.
We switch it up every once in a while.
Put different hats on. Yeah, that's good. All right. So, here's the thing is our format is different than it looks like the majority of the room, but that doesn't mean that these things don't apply. So I've been in session. I'm a youth leader as well. Now we have a large group for that, but we would do breakout sessions a lot of times where it's a smaller class, so to speak. And so we'll do a breakout where we have a smaller group of kids. And I think I'm big on presentation with young people, because I think that presentation it captures attention, and that presentation can be in a document even, it can be in a skit, it can be a video, whatever, so I think it captures attention. And then I'm a big fan of moving things along quickly, and not just the format that I'm doing right now. I hate. This is the worst. The class I did, for those of you that were in there, I like that format. I grabbed some people and we did some skits and spontaneous stuff. That's more my style. I like moving and having fun. So I don't like this format. I know it's necessary sometimes, and so I apologize for all the bored out of your mind right now. But I think that when we take these 1%, these ideas of just 1% gains, and we think of how we can make things better, good is not good enough. You notice it's crossed out in the title. Good is not good enough. And so commend everybody on what you're doing now. Well, what can I do to make it better? So I'll tell you something that my pastor told me a long time ago, that it's across the board in my life, in Sunday school, in work, everywhere, is we were talking about something, I think it might have been work related, and everybody should feel this way about their pastor, but my pastor's a pretty incredible guy. And so he said, well, how I approach things, if trying to solve a problem or do something, is I do as many things as I can in that area. And then there's things that fall off because they don't work. And so it's kind of like throw at the wall and see what sticks, except that he's putting effort. He's grinding the wheels. He's making things happen. And he and I work very closely together on several projects. And there's some that have fallen by the wayside. We're like, man, you remember when we tried to do that? Boy, that didn't work. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the set class. But we have a building on our property. It's a 2-story building, kind of almost a warehouse style. It's a pre-engineered metal building, and right now the school is downstairs, and then upstairs is more of a general purpose area. that's where our Sunday school is. We're blessed with a permanent space. We didn't always have that, but we're blessed with a permanent space. So it had been kind of in construction mode for a long time. We had constructed the building, and then it was, it had just the floor decking down and no sheetrock or anything like that for a long time. We used it like that for a long time. It was really fun for Sunday school because I could screw into the floor and I could do all kinds of stuff. So I like water features, and so I've done many water features, done waterfalls and that kind of thing. But we did this theme that we're actually getting ready to do again. We're not going to do this particular item, but we built a creek upstairs, and the creek was probably about, if you took the walls of this room, because it wasn't straight, if you took the walls of this room, about the perimeter of the room, and it was, I think it was 3'6" wide, roughly, kind of went in and out. It was about that big. And so we built this creek, put real water in it, rocks and all that. We took a bunch of water pumps and had them in there so they would bubble and everything. And so you walked up, we had bridges where you actually had to go over the creek and everything. We had a kid fall in it. So we built this creek, put dye in it and all of that. But here's the thing is, when we were building this, the first thing I did is I did just some visqueen for the bottom. I put it in there. And then I'm up building this tree, and my screw falls. And it falls down and pokes right into that plastic. I'm like, oh man, okay, well, tape that up. It's just this tiny hole, 1%, right? It's just this tiny, tiny hole. Fill it up with water. Brother Gabe! I'm running upstairs. We got a leak! And so it's leaking underneath, water just pouring, dumping out. So we got to pump all the water out the window. We got to take all the plastic. It was a mess. It was awful. And so we had to take a risk. And we're not going to do that now because we have sheetrock in the ceiling and everything. But we had to take a little bit of risk. And there were some people that criticized that. Like, you remember you created that leak and everything? But here's the thing is you have to push. You have to push yourself. So on those marginal gains philosophy, you have to push, or else you're just gonna, like in the, you're gonna be in that box. You're not. You got to think outside the box. Thinking outside the box doesn't mean necessarily creating damage. I was able to mitigate all of that without my pastor having to be involved. And so, yeah, I remember the story about the ceiling. So you have to push yourself. Since you're in here, what's that saying you say about reining in?
Yeah, I'd rather rein in a noble steed than push a stubborn donkey.
I'd rather rein in a noble steed than push a stubborn donkey. And so that's what step. But I want to be that noble steed. I want to push and think outside the box. And so a lot of these things I've referenced, fall into the format of what we do in its big sense. But even in a small classroom, there are things that you can do. So you could set up, just in a classroom setting with a few kids. So raise your hands again. Who is the classroom setting with just a couple teachers or one teacher, group of kids? Okay. How many kids? About 8? And what ages?
They're 5 to
5 to 11. Who else? Anybody else have kind of that? What do you got?
We got 4 classes, and the
Okay.
ages are from 3 to 18. We do
And they're all
2
broken up in there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then we got a
Got it.
teacher and a helper.
Teacher and a helper.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing that I would challenge, and you might be doing this already, but going back to the presentation is if there's something that you always do, somebody willing to offer an example just really quick of kind of a general format that you do.
Yeah. So I actually do prayer. God gave me a format, or helped me take one. So like, it's broken up into 3 sections. So we open up. Well, we just started implementing it like a couple weeks ago. It's worship and wiggles. So as soon as they come in, we have music playing, and it's time to worship.
Yeah.
Get the wiggles out, get their energy.
Yeah, that's good.
And then it's rules and recitals. So we have the rules We also have a pledge, and this young man actually comes up, he hasn't memorized.
Nice.
And he did that all by himself. So I have him, so we're like moving leadership too. But then it's passage and play, so we move right into the lesson, have an altar call, and make sure we can distribute the candy and give the games.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so I think that no matter what your format, there's a couple things is, and we're going to do this using some of their object lesson stuff. But think of what if you took your format once in a while. I'm not saying permanently. I just tried an experiment, and it didn't really work out. I mean, it wasn't a disaster or anything, but I had all the staff write the script. I write the scripts. I had all the staff write the scripts. They're part of it, you know. They're doing the Bible story. I'm doing the rules. I'm doing whatever. And so I had them do that. We did that for, I think it was a month. We kind of rotated it around, and it was good. We're going to do it again, but it's not for us. It's not a permanent thing. We're not going to do that permanently just because it doesn't work for us. But we find things in there, and I find also with the staff, I find out they're really good at this that I didn't know maybe before. Like, oh man, he's actually really good at Bible stories. So that's one thing I would challenge is if you have a format, is what happens if you turn it on its head? What if you just say, you know what, just this week, we're going to just totally go nuts, do something different. And what can happen is it can change. I keep on interrupting myself. I'm the rudest person I know. But here's the thing: is we do something quite often now in our scripts. We don't do it every time, but I call it dynamic opening. That sounds really cool, right? Dynamic opening. And the idea is when kids are walking in, there's something happening, and it's usually a preview of the Bible story or a preview of the theme skit, whatever theme we're doing. We just finished Space a few months ago, so it might be something with that. So they walk in and something's happening, and we always have music tracks going, so it's kind of maybe the lights are dim, we got spotlights on or whatever, and so they come in and it's already, they're walking in, it's already something happening. Now where I got that is we had, with our script, we had a certain way that we did it. We'd always, you know, do a welcome, right? We would start out with a welcome, a team or a person, and a welcome to Sunday school, whatever, maybe do some rules. We used to not do rules, but we'd come out and do a welcome. Well then one time is, because it fit well with the script, I was like, hey, why don't we have the bad guys, you know, they're always bad guys. So let's have the bad guys up here planning their things. We're going to do this deal later, a mission or whatever, later with the kids. So when the kids come up, the bad guys are up there planning. Well, they had never seen that before. They usually come up and, you know, doing like kids do, nudging each other, fighting, whatever, and sitting down and stuff, and then like, okay, now we start. Well, they came up and there's already people in costume on stage. I think they had a whiteboard. It was kind of funny. But so they're up there planning this bad stuff that they're going to do. And so, of course, the kids are yelling, no, you can't do that, and everything. And then they accidentally go on to the thing. Well, I know it sounds little. It's a marginal gain. It sounds little. But now we do that quite often, and the kids probably pretty much used to it. But when the visitors come, you know, they're not used to it, so it's cool. But because we turned it on its heel, we said, let's change this. Let's do something different. And so the other thing is too in classrooms is you can still do decor. I don't know if you do already, but you can do decor even if it's not a permanent space. You can do decor and make it cool. And if it's a small enough, you know, if it's a small room like this. You're limited in some ways, but in other ways, it's easier. It's super easy now because you could come in here on a Saturday night and, man, people walk in and it's a different world, right? And then take it down Sunday morning. So there's things you can do, and if you approach it as, well, we'll do it this time, this Sunday. Let's do it, you know, in a month, we're going to do this. And the reason I say that is sometimes when we look at something that we want to advance to, there's so many different things that I want to do. I really want to expand our bus ministry, and there's just, I want to do like Brother Greg, you know, I want to have that happening. But if we could take the incremental, you know, changing the tires, right?
Yeah.
And the seat, and the uniform. If we could take these incremental changes, then sometimes, you know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? We take one bite at a time. If we can say, I'm just going to do this one thing, and I'm going to try it out, and it can lead to bigger things. Or if it's like, I know that I want to implement this, then you can implement that one thing, and then you take it from there, and you keep on going, you keep on going, you take it to the next thing. Okay, let's see, what else we got here? Sorry, I kind of got way off of my notes there. Okay, I'll give you this quote really quick. This is by James Clear, the author that I mentioned earlier. You don't rise to the level of systems. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And I know I'm a broken record when it comes to habits. It's a big thing for me. And so I'm repeating stuff. But when we can build in a certain way, I know I just talked about turning it on its heel, but when you can build in a certain way of doing things, and I don't mean a certain way like, okay, we always do it this way, but I mean a mindset, a mode that I'm always going to do my best. I'm always going to push. Never be satisfied. I'm not going to just be satisfied with what we have.
Right.
I'm going to always push. And if that's a mindset, always push. That's your system. Then you're going to rise to that or fall to the level of your system. Okay, let's see. All right, there we go. Okay, so now here's the other thing. What's time we got? Okay, we're good. Okay. The other thing is with when we turn something on its heel, or like say, for example, I'll just use that dynamic opening that I talked about for an example for what we do. We found that and it works. So that was a long time ago that we made that switch, and man, it was like a shot in the arm. We got a pump. You know, we made it to the next level for a while. Well, now it's time. I'm being transparent. It's time for us we got to step that up now, because that was cool, but we, to be honest, sat on that too long. We've sat there too long. Now our dynamic opening is just kind of like, okay, we're going to do one. We're going to do one. But what if now we make it way better? What if now we just take it to the next level? Okay, so Darren Hardy, he wrote, or he said, you can never own success. You can only rent it. You can never own success. You can only rent it. And the rent is due every day. Anybody ever been in sales? Okay. All right. So I'm not in sales, but I was in sales for a little while. And man, I worked for Yellow Book. That was a long time ago. But I worked for Yellow Book, and I had some video background, and so I was doing some partnership with Google for video advertising. And man, I landed an account, and it was awesome. I was like getting patted on the back, and people were talking about me in a good way this time. I mean, it was cool. I was on cloud 9. And I'll have to make up the day, okay? That was on Wednesday. Thursday, my boss was asking about my sales numbers. Might not have been that literal, but that's how sales works, right? You can hit your marks, but you rent that success. It's due every day. It's due again. Because if you're like pointing back, you know, you ever hear old guys talk about that football touchdown they made in high school? You know, they don't have anything more recent to point back to. So if you're having to point way back to the success you did that one time, I mean, it's cool to do that. I mean, these cool things, you should remember them. But if that's the only thing you can do is point back to the touchdown in high school, man, you gotta step it up. And so success is only rented. You can't. It's due every day. So we have some scripts, and I have a lot of scripts, and I want to kind of get them formatted. I have one that's kind of ready to go. I want to get them formatted where they're available to maybe sell or whatever. But I have several of them that are just kind of, I wouldn't call them good enough for public to see, you know. I'm big on typos and that kind of thing. So I have several scripts that are just internal that we have. And so what we've been doing, we're in between themes right now, and we're building our new one and we're actually building an indoor playground. But so we're in between themes, and so what we are doing is we are recycling our scripts. All right, so I'm grabbing a script, and it is kind of cool because like we did this in September of 2017, you know. So we're recycling scripts, and I'm going to be painfully honest. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow. Because I know that I can recycle a script. That's bad, that's terrible, but that's just being honest. So, but here's the thing is, really what I should do and what I want to do is I want to start planning our themes. What we try to do is we used to change them all the time, and we did quarterly, and now what our themes are 16 weeks. So we do 3 themes a year. We do them 16 weeks long. On average, we kind of mess with that a little bit, but that's the idea. And so we have a transition time in there, and our transition times, to be honest, they're really lame in my mind. We still do this full script, but we don't have really a cool setup. We have, you know, we might throw a scene setter on the wall or something, but we don't really have anything that's cool and interactive that's for what we do. So what my next goal, and I'm being open and honest because I'm hoping it helps to prompt some ideas for you and your format, because I know that the majority of the formats are not like mine. But my goal is that I can take those transitions. One thing is condense it so that I can get the constructing of the set done quicker. So I want to figure out how to be more efficient and condense that time. And then I want to take where in that transition, it's its own little theme, where it's a pop-up set or whatever, but it's its own thing that's 100%. Because right now, we kind of, as a general rule with all of our staff, we kind of know like, oh, this is just, we're going to just kind of skate through this. Now, again, it's not bad or anything, it's good, but we kind of just sit back on those recycled scripts and we allow that to kind of carry us through. And so that's kind of my goal is that I want to take that to the next level. Okay, 2 other things about systems, and I think we're going to be done. So we might get done just a couple minutes early. Hope that's okay. Probably putting everybody to sleep. I'm sorry. Okay. Often crashes or bugs. Who was I talking to? You do software, right? Yeah. So crashes or bugs are not a result of faulty software, but a faulty operating system. Many times, right? And so we can receive a lot of great advice, a lot of concepts, but if our operating system, if the way that we do things is faulty, we might blame ourselves or blame our lack of success on the advice rather than looking in the mirror. Ooh, that sounds harsh, doesn't it? Okay, I'm gonna use another example. So there's a bunch of, does anybody mess around with video, doing editing and that kind of thing? Anybody in here? A couple people? Okay, good. All right, so so we just did for our youth night, I split the youth into 3 groups. We have, I don't know, around 40 youth or something. So I split them up and they did a video competition, just on their phone. They had their phone, and I made them, you gotta have a director, you gotta have a photographer, you know, or a videographer, you gotta have an editor. And so they had all these positions, so they did this just on their phone. So it's going to be cool because I think this coming Friday we're going to view them all, you know, and see it. So, but there's, I do a lot of, or I used to do more, but I do a lot of video editing and stuff for various things, Sunday school, youth, whatever. And there's all kinds of programs out there. And so there's a couple top ones is Final Cut Pro, and then there's Adobe Premiere Pro, and there's DaVinci Resolve. Those are kind of maybe the 3 top ones. And then there's things like iMovie, there's Windows Movie Maker, There's probably others. There's apps. Okay, so somebody can take a laptop or something that's not very robust, and they can hear that Final Cut Pro is like one of the best. It's kind of like it's kind of between Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere Pro is like Pepsi or Coke, you know. So it just kind of depends on your preference, or LeBron or Michael Jordan. So you can take those, but either one. So if you say Final Cut is the Apple product. So let's say Adobe Premiere Pro. So you have a laptop and you put Adobe Premiere Pro on it. You're like, I'm going to edit some video. And if you don't edit video, that still relates. Just understand what I'm saying. And you get on there, and every time you're trying to cut a clip or move something, and there's a timeline with clips, you're trying to move something, it just lags, it's buggy, and you're just like, Adobe Premiere Pro is awful. I mean, why did they suggest this? And you grab iMovie, and you're like, oh yeah, I can make this happen. Or iMovie on your phone, I can make this happen. And those are fine. But professional movie studios use Adobe Premiere Pro. Hollywood uses, you know, these Final Cut Pro or whatever. I'm not promoting any of that, by the way. But professionals use that software. The problem is the system that it's on. It's not a problem with the software. Adobe Premiere Pro is a powerful program, but you got to have an operating system that can run it. And so, final thoughts. We got 3 minutes left. I don't think we're going to use them all. Is you've got to have an operating system that can take on these big ideas. Think outside the box. But you got to have an operating system where you say, okay, I'm going to put, like Brother Ryan Gregg talked about, extreme in everything you do. I challenge you in personal life too, but in everything you do, if it's a Sunday school program, if it's a classroom setting, everything you do, take it to the extreme. And so I like to think, I'm going to talk about this in the set class, if you had $1 million, but if you had $1 million, or if I could do anything, what would I do? What was just, I mean, go nuts, get some people to help you, that helps, get some kids to help you. Like, oh man, we would have a big, huge 20-foot water slide. So get some people to help you, and what would I do? Okay, well that's unrealistic, but if I have an operating system where I'm pushing, then I can take it to the next level. All right, I'm done. Any questions?
Good.
No? Good. Oh, I'm sorry.
Not a question, but maybe some advice. I guess.
Yeah.
For those people that are in the small church, this may not work. I don't know all your church situation. 20-something years ago, there was one Sunday school class. It was from 2 to 15 or whatever age group.
Right.
And that was all they had. Church was growing when we first came down here to Rialto. Well, anyway, they asked my wife and I to you know, the Bishop Larry Booker said, you know, so would you teach class? So we took some older kids and whatever. But one of the things which helped, but I'm telling you, it is tough when you got 50 minutes and it's just you and your wife, or then we split because you started growing. I got 50 minutes to handle these kids. You can only do offering for 30 minutes, and then they'll get bored with taking up offering. You don't have anything else, right? And it could be get burnout, whatever. But one of the things our church did was look around, and we had a workshop. What do we different ministries? And it's ushers, it's everything we did to see what's out there.
Yeah.
To encourage people. Hey, if you're interested in something, so we had like a night, a ministry fair. Everybody presented something, and they had it out there to talk and ask, to try to solicit. I think Haiti and Keith were products of that. They've only been doing this for like a month or so, and they're doing great. But find out just to try to get some people involved. But look around. If you can get people, obviously you don't want somebody just show up to the church 1 week. And be careful, use some wisdom. But the way we format, so that was one thing to try to get help, because it's tough. But maybe look at your format of your church and we have segments. Hey, can you do a 5-minute song? Can you do a 5-minute object lesson?
And it's a new phase
just to
too.
Get them in there, just to try to just see how they can feel it out, and then to try to grow some people to help you. So
That's
I mean,
good.
there'll be so weeks go by. I don't have anything. I mean, we'll all be crowd control, and that's my role that week. And I don't have to do the 50-minute lesson and stuff.
And then you find out sometimes that people want to get more involved because they
People want
try
to
it
help,
out.
but they say, I can't teach a class for 50.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. I want you to do 3 minutes
Yeah.
to do the rules. And then
That's
if they
really
get a little
good, yeah.
taste for it, maybe just expand your group. Because I'm telling you, having a bigger staff, we're blessed.
Yeah.
Philip's done a phenomenal job there, but I'm telling you, it really helps. And then people, all you need to do is perfect a 4-minute segment, and then it just really helps. So
That's really good. You know, it reminds me of, I wanted to tell a story really quick. We had a guy come in, that the family's been part of our church for a while now, and he was like, we do a big event every year. It's a full-on production and everything. So he was kind of looking at that. He was saying, I want to have a little piece in that, so maybe I can get some experience in acting in Sunday school. So this is, I'm not just like trying to brag on our Sunday school, but talking about something like ordinary to extraordinary. I was like, sure, yeah, come on. I asked Pastor, and he said, yeah. So I had him come in, and it was really neat. His reaction made me feel so good because he was like, you do all this for the kids? And I mean, he's got kids at Sunday school, and he's been in our church. But he was like, we're like, yeah, here, put this costume on. And he's like, you do this for the kids? Here, grab this mic. We have, mics, headset mics. You bought these? And he helps with a lot of our fundraisers. He's in a Mexican family, he does Mexican dinners and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is what all your fundraisers have gone to. We bought these mics with your fundraisers. And it was really neat for him to see, because he was just like, I'm going to come into this little Sunday school. And he saw this, in his mind, this big operation. And he's like, you do all of this for the kids? Like, yeah, this is a big deal, man. So it was cool. All right, thank you guys. Hope you got something out of it.